Hi everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to ODTUG's online education series. Today's webinar is Measuring, Analyzing, and Remediating Oracle Cloud Performance, presented by Chuck Chakowski of Excellitus. This presentation will be recorded and will be available to ODTUG members on the ODTUG website by tomorrow afternoon. Welcome, Chuck, and thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much, Karen. As Karen mentioned, the presentation today is on managing, analyzing, and remediating the Oracle Cloud and ways that you can get performance statistics from it. My name is Chuck Chakowski. I'm the Principal Support Engineer here at Excellitus. Jonathan Berry was going to give the presentation, but I am standing in for him. I'm the second string guy, so hopefully I can cover all the points that he would have, and I'm quite positive at the end of the presentation that we'll probably have some time for some Q&A and some questions. So if you stick around and you've got some things that you want to ask us about, certainly do that. And again, we should have some time at the end. So I just want to give you a little overview on what Excellitus is. So Excellitus, we're a cloud-enabled application performance management solution company. We provide both IT and business users insight and control that they need to effectively manage the enterprise software systems. So what that means is really we straddle both the IT side in a technical sense and the business side in an application sense to provide any group or any combination of groups information about their systems that they might not otherwise be able to get. As far as the company, who is Excellitus? Our founder and CEO is Jonathan Berry. Jonathan was with Hyperion Solutions on the HFM development team for many years, and of course Oracle bought Hyperion, and at that time he was put in charge of the Director of Engineering for HFM and FDM up until 2008, at which time Jonathan left Oracle and founded Excellitus. So we've definitely got some working knowledge as far as these programs are concerned. If you were to add up all the experience for the folks that work here at Excellitus, we've got over 200 years of combined Hyperion experience, and most of the people, and when I say most, probably 90x% have come from Oracle or Hyperion, so we know this product very well. Application management software helps clients enjoy better performance from the enterprise applications, and with our strengths that we have with the foundation of Hyperion and Oracle and products like HFM, we certainly can help folks go ahead and do that. As far as our product goes, up until fairly recently, our product was an on-premise solution. You had a group of servers in your data center, and we have a product that would sit on those servers and be able to do all sorts of stuff, monitor them, and notify, run synthetic transactions. Again, all this was happening with the service that sits on the servers. But obviously, with the recent movement in Oracle to move towards a cloud solution, we had to go in and develop some solution for that. So what we've got is a cloud offering that can be hosted. It can be hosted certainly on Oracle solution. We can be hosted in Azure on your own private environment, however you want. But basically, what we have is a product that is built to monitor cloud transactions, cloud applications specifically. And of course, if you marry that product with our traditional on-premise product, you can have a hybrid product, which gives you the best of both worlds. Anything that we offer on our fat client and our services that sit on a server mixed with the stuff in the cloud. So you can get a number of solutions from a mix of what we do. Our software solutions, like I said, we have our on-premise software called the Center of Excellence Performance Management Platform, more of a service that sits on a physical box or even a virtual box, but again, more of a service that just sits there, and that spans all the way over to our cloud solutions platform, which I talked about before, more of a web service that you can host from any number of places. It does not have to be in your data center. It doesn't have to be at Oracle's data center. It could really sit anywhere. And as far as the things that we do performance testing on par with products like Load Runner, where we can go in and stress test servers. We can test for capacity, and this type of testing certainly can carry over to a regression test when you put changes in place, and you want to make sure everything's still running the way that it was last week before you put a whole bunch of patches on. That plays into that area as well. We do health checks, which give people a sense of, if their services are up and running, how well they're running, how well their products are responding, all those sorts of things. And of course, we can take those results and alert on them, report on them, do all kinds of stuff like that with them. Optimization, obviously, and looking at all these metrics and statistics from your system can help you better understand how things are running. If you make changes to memory or hardware or configurations, you can go right back in and really get a feel of what that change means real time for whatever action you want to take, whether it's building a report or pulling up a form. Again, with this suite of products, you can go in and get a real feel for what the end result is of that thing you just did. And then our Center of Excellence Management can help people manage their servers. Again, a lot of times when you're talking about Oracle EPM environments, they're very complex environments, very large environments, and it's very difficult for administrators, whether on the IT side or on the business side, to really keep tabs on everything and make sure that all their servers are in sync when it comes to product settings, when it comes to user load, many things that you can look at there. But again, our product can go ahead and help you manage those sorts of things. So our solutions overview, we sit on top of a whole bunch of products. So it does not have to be EPM or Oracle. Our product works with database servers. We work with the e-business suite, OBIEE, as many of our customers are using ODI, those sorts of things. PeopleSoft, JD Edwards. There's Cognos plugin. So again, depending on what you're looking for, we don't have to just be narrowed down to Hyperion products. We actually sit on a whole bunch of stuff. And like I said before, as far as the platform is concerned, we do a whole bunch of stuff. We can turn any of the things that we're monitoring into reporting. So let's say you've got a certain set of statistics that you want to get emailed to you every Monday morning. Certainly you can do something like that with our product. We can do alerting based on that same criteria. Let's say you want to know if your planning form is taking longer than 30 seconds to open. And if it is, you want to get an alert sent to you, whether it's an SNMP trap or an email or a text on your phone. We can do all that sorts of things. You can keep control over your provisioning, make sure that the provisioning looks the way it does, the users are where they're supposed to be, any sorts of changes that happen there, you can keep track of that. Communication in between your servers, whether they're all in the same data center or whether you're trying to see if remote offices are able to communicate with the servers, we can do all that sort of stuff. And again, the user interface that we have in order to control all of this stuff. And without getting too detailed, just to show you across the board sort of the modules that we have a management module, which again helps you keep track of servers, services, processes if they're running, and even server settings as far as memory or Java settings on your applications. We have an automation module where you can have different scheduled jobs run. Jobs could be anything from maybe in an Essbase shop where you export data, clear zeros, re-import, and then do whatever you want to do. Or maybe on the HFM side, you lock data. Maybe you're doing metadata loads or exports. Again, any number of things that you would normally do with the product. You can automate all these things and have them run on a schedule. We do auditing, which again, if you think about it maybe in a provisioning type of sense where something changes, maybe a calc script had changed or a rule has changed, and you want to pick that change up, maybe a member was added in Essbase or something similar like that, we certainly can keep track of all that sort of stuff. Log management, which seems to be pretty big. We can do a number of things with logs. We can rotate them for you, we can archive them for you, we can alert you when certain things show up in them. So anything that revolves around log management. We do have a performance monitor section as well, which as I talked about again, you can collect metrics on your system. So maybe you want to report on it, maybe you want to see the CPU over time, maybe you want to see memory usage over the time of a close or something like that. And again, all these graphs that you can build from the information that you collect is available there in your performance monitor. Uh, User experience is that the one with the users there. So when we talk about user experience, we talk about spinning up synthetic transactions, getting a real feel for what that actually looks like in terms of milliseconds. For a user to go in, log into Workspace, and maybe take an action, save a form, open up a report, any of those sorts of things. Not just that they're working, but how long it took. So all that is rolled up into our user experience. Performance testing suite is what I talked about before, as far as you know, load testing your system, or throwing regression tests at your system, make sure everything that's running properly. And again, this is most notable out there when people make changes or are loading patches across the board. It's nice to bring your servers back up and be able to run a test and know that everything still functions, and not only functions, but behaves correctly and responds in a reasonable time. We do have a support desk module. It's actually not ready for this release, but our next 4.1 release coming up shortly, because what we found is most of our customers don't have any way for their Hyperion or Oracle users to log a ticket with the people who are responsible for it. Most organizations maybe have a help desk section, but this is fairly specific towards the business community using EPM products, so that they can have a place to track changes and problems and issues and resolutions, and keep that history. There's an advisory section. I'm looking at the time right now, and I know I am long-winded, so I apologize. So I'm going to just fly through it. We have an advisory section. We have a section where you can optimize your settings, and again, what I was speaking of earlier, where you can run a test, make a change, run the same test, see the results. We do project tracking. We have an area where we can keep track of tasks. And the last section, of course, is our Center of Excellence. Now, if you look at this slide, above it, there's a little cloud icon for all of the things that are available in our cloud solution, and all of the other things are available in our on-premise solution. So just know that not everything is available in the cloud solution. So if you look here, that same list I just gave you, the things that are available with the pure SaaS or the cloud solution are checked off. The on-premise solution, of course, has most of those things, minus a couple, and if you have both, obviously, you get a collection of the best of both worlds there. So because we have the different options as far as the cloud and the on-premise, you end up with a whole bunch of options for your deployment, and this slide just sort of lays out the types of things that we can do. So for today's demo, what I'm going to be showing you is the Exceltis Cloud solution as it hits like a PBCS or an Oracle Cloud solution. But just know that this solution can also work with folks who have hosted EPM solutions. So if your EPM solution is in a data center somewhere, or if you're a data center who hosts EPM solutions, right? Maybe you have 12 or 15 Oracle customers. This solution would work for that as well. And then, of course, the on-premise EPM solution, which is the more traditional. We have a bunch of servers, or we have a bunch of VMware servers that we're running our stuff on. So this solution can work there. And just so you understand, the on-premise solution does work for the hosted EPM and the on-premise EPM, but it is not the right solution when you're talking about the cloud services as far as Oracle's talking about. So again, today's demo will focus on that top connection right there. And as far as the users, who are the users that would buy our product or that would use this cloud platform? So you've got a managed service provider that, again, like I said, if you've got a data center and you've got a bunch of customers, you can use this cloud platform to monitor multiple customer systems that might be siloed in themselves, but this gives you a single point to look at to monitor that whole thing. A managed service client, so let's say you are the person who has your servers in a hosted solution like that, you can use this solution to go out and test your own servers and give you a sense of how they're performing, what kind of stuff is happening with them, so you can have some insight into the performance of your boxes, even if they're not on site. So obviously the on-premise client, you'd be able to use this to point to your own stuff just as easily. And then again, today's demo is going to be the cloud client where you really don't have, you've got your application uploaded up to Oracle's cloud, and you're just looking for a way to not only know that your stuff is up there and available and running, but know that your stuff is up there, available and running well. So that's really the difference. A lot of the cloud type operations that we do revolve around what we call active monitoring or synthetic transactions. So we use these synthetic transactions to gauge environmental performance. In other words, uh, whether it's a user sitting in front of a machine in a browser, hitting the cloud, opening up their application and opening up their forms or doing whatever they're doing, we do that synthetically through our own programming and our own packages, so that we can easily gauge what that time looks like to understand, again, not only if the app is up or down or if it's available, but really how well it's responding and that sort of thing. So with that active monitoring in place, another thing that we can do is we can track SLAs, and you can measure ongoing performance against baseline. So in other words, if you have a user base, whatever that is, and you're expecting a certain performance out of your cloud application, um, and you know that this form should respond in a certain amount of time, you can look at that and trend it and understand what that looks like, not only as you grow your user base out, but as your application grows, right? Because it really is, it's not a static thing. It's very dynamic as far as what you have loaded into the system, and you can get a real feel for what that looks like on a user experience level. And the last part of this, of course, is alerts. So whether it's an error where you go out and try to pull something down and it doesn't come down, you can certainly get an alert based on that. Performance issues, a lot of people, again, X amount of time, if your form did not download, didn't show up within 30 seconds, maybe you want to get an alert popped out to have somebody take a look to see what might be going on there. Or aggregated environmental performance, right? So over time, what that looks like, and if that performance does dip over time, or say over, a certain period where you're only hitting a certain speed goal, 80% of the time, that you want to be alerted on that as well. And these are all ways that you can be proactively monitoring your system as opposed to just waiting for something to go wrong to fix it. This way here, sometimes you get that nice window into an issue before it even is an issue. Another facet of the cloud product that we have is regression testing. And again, regular and automated time over time comparison. The idea being, if you open up a particular form or grid on the cloud solution, you're going to expect that form or grid to open up in a similar fashion every time you open it, right? So it's a way to make sure that you're still getting the performance that you want out of it. And like I talked before, the middle point there, the quick validation after upgrades, 4 times a year, Oracle's out doing security updates, and I don't know how often they're planning on doing incremental updates on the cloud, but again, you don't really have control over it. What you do have with their solution is a window for them to say, okay, we made some changes. You guys have a couple of weeks to make sure everything's okay. So with this regression testing, it's a great way to just click a button, let it run, and look at the results, and you could know, right away if something's working, not working, performing poorly, or whatever it is. Again, a very quick way to validate that everything is up and everything is good. We could do different types of validations as well. It doesn't just have to be that my form didn't open or that it took this long to open. We could do a data tie-out validation, which really, based on different factors involved, that you have a particular form and you know that you're supposed to be getting a particular value in this cell. You can set up a regression test and have it key in that data value so that when you run this thing after whatever it is, whether it's an upgrade or whether it's a rule update, you know that with that data tie-out that everything is still coming back correctly. So we can do that. Concurrency testing, again, as far as what you should be able to get with users pulling down forms or users in the system, knowing that that's working correctly. And like we said before, baseline testing, which just lets you know that things over time have not changed and that you're still performing the way that you want to. And again, this is all part of our regression testing. All right, so I'm gonna do a quick demo for you here, and what I've got here is just a version of our cloud software, and it is running on my own sandbox environment. So I'll show you what I have here. This is the client dashboard. This is our main page, and even this page might look different depending on how you're set up. The way that I've set this system up is that I logged in with my company being Excelitus, which gives me access to these other companies that I've set up. So picture, if you will, this might be the type of dashboard that you would see if you had multiple environments that you were looking to monitor at the same time. Again, maybe a hosted solution where I'm in charge of all these people's systems. So when I log in, I see a whole bunch of them. If you had just one system, then you would just see one customer, and you might not see as much detail over here. But again, picture, if you will, that this is the solution here. Uh, so we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on in the middle there. We've got separate little panels that give you quick information in a glance as far as what's going on in your system. We've got some overall statistics. We've got a health section here, which I'll show you in a little bit. We set up some checks for it to run, and if anything fails during those checks, I get an alert. So I could see here I've got a couple of alerts. Like I spoke before, some of our modules we won't get into today, but we can keep track of some projects and tasks. We can keep track of auditing, how many things have changed. Again, we have our advisory modules, Center of Excellence, a whole bunch of stuff going on here. The middle section is that help desk section. And again, any new type of tickets will show up there. Maybe configuration management down here can show us what changes are detected. But for today's purpose, we're going to focus on the health section, and we're going to focus on the automation section as well. So let me go ahead and click on health and show you a little bit here. Now, all of the statistics that you see in here are sort of auto-generated by me just to make it look interesting. Because if it was all green checks, then we have nothing interesting to look at. But this is the health check screen, and again, because of the way that I logged in, I'm able to see multiple clients, multiple environments. So that would obviously look slightly different for you logging in. But again, it's a quick way to see what's going on. If all the health checks have passed, then of course you're going to see a nice green check mark. Everything looks good. Some statistics on when things were checked, what the last one was, when the next one's going to be, when a regression test was run. You could run your regression test right from here, or you can get the regression test details over here. So there's a few things you could do. I want to point out that this Bud Prod from this Acme company does have an alert. Now we have several little icons that can show you when things are wrong, a yellow triangle or a red circle. But clearly, you could tell that there is something wrong here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the Bud Prod environment. And this next screen here, this is a collection of all of the health checks that I have asked this to run. And again, picture, if you will, these are all synthetic transactions running and statistics that are being tracked for the Bud Prod environment. And if you look at the top here, I've got 2 hours worth of data showing. And we've got some things going on here as far as quick indications. The red arrow indicates that you are below your predefined SLA, right, your service level agreement. And you can see there's some color coding here. The area in the yellow is what we would consider a low severity warning. Again, maybe it's not a problem yet, but you want to know if it dips into this yellow area. And then the red would be where our alerts are. And that is why you saw the red circle on the previous screen. Is because I do have a health check here that is in the red, so that would require my attention. If you look down here, you can see that this check here 100% of the time is below the threshold that I've set for it, so that one's good. This one also is bad. Red arrow indicates a bad test. And again, the bottom one showing that everything is good. I could slide at the top and get different statistics based on time. I was just looking at a 2-hour slice of time, but if I ramp that up to say 24 hours, notice how the graph has changed now. So over a 24-hour period, this health check, maybe it hasn't been performing well. It's in the yellow here quite a bunch and has dipped into the red. But you can see that these statistics do change based on the time that I'm looking at. And again, it's just a way to help spot trends and help understand, when stuff is going wrong or when stuff is running slowly. You want to make sure that you're able to come back through here and that you are able to detect, maybe when or why, and that might help you piece together what a problem might be. So that's what we got here. If I click on the analysis screen over to the left here, again, we try to give you more of a step back as far as what's going on. We can ascertain average uptime from the checks, right? So as long as the checks are up and running and completing, we know that that you've got some uptime. So and just like you saw with the dials, average SLA. So wherever we set our service level agreements, we can get a quick look to see what's going on here. SLA's uptime and just different statistics here, but just know that we've got some dashboard type screens that you can get to. I'm going to click on configuration over here. Well, I'm going to click on configuration if it lets me. There we go. So in the configuration window is where I'm setting up not only my health checks, but I'm also setting up my regression tests. Now, these packages that I spoke of are predefined packages that I've gone through and configured for, for whatever my account is, my user, the thing that I'm going to load up, and any sort of parameters that I need to give it. And you can see on the side here that I've chosen 4 of them as my health checks, right? And those are the 4 that you saw listed in that health screen. But I've got all of these listed as my regression tests, okay? So what that means is when I do run a regression test, and again, the idea being that maybe Oracle just put in a patch set, I've done something, I've loaded up my metadata, I've done some work that I want to make sure did not affect the usability of anything. So these are all the ones that I've chosen for my regression. I've got a benchmark time set here. And again, with those SLAs and stuff, traffic light feature where if I fall within a certain percentage of that time, that I could be notified, by an alert that something has happened. Another thing that we can do is if these numbers fall under a certain percentage or something that is alerted on happens, we can actually create a flow, which is just like a little job, to do any number of things. Now, over here, I know you see here it's got nothing here, but if I drop this down, depending on what I have predefined, I can actually have this thing take an action. And again, they probably won't make too much sense because this is not really a working type environment, it's just my sandbox. But just know that you could do a number of things based on the outcome of these types of tests, whether it's a regression test or a health test. I'm going to jump back over here to my bud prod. I'm not going to run the regression test here, but I do want to show you what a regression test, what the results look like. This is our regression report. So the types of things that you can see from this might be a benchmark, a date that we ran it, what the value was, uh, and then maybe what the test date was and the value was when we ran the test. So in this case, these are data tie-out results, and you could see in here that we've got a value that we're looking for, right? So in the benchmark on 515, this was our value, and if you look at this, we ran it maybe 3 months later. Same value came back. Again, the quick indication being the green check mark. And if you come down here, we've got our concurrency results. So that we ran 50 users in a 5-minute period. We are looking for this form to be pulled up in 20 seconds. And you can see here that we're pretty close on it, but the little arrow indicating that we're a little bit slower than we are for our benchmark, right? So 20 seconds was the benchmark, and over a couple of months, it's maybe it's getting a little bit slower. And the other ones, again, same thing. Here's some stuff with a red X, so at least you can see what that looks like. And these are all of those regression tests that I had checked off in the configuration, where we have a particular benchmark time, and then the last bunch of times that we ran the regression test, and of course the quick indication whether it is slower or faster. And again, these types of things might indicate that you've got to do some investigating or some work maybe into looking at some kind of delta change between whatever you did last, or maybe again you look between the two dates and you can get a good feel for exactly where something might have started performing poorly, and again help you sort of fix that and be proactive about taking care of it before it becomes an issue. And again, I'm one eye on the time, and I'm trying to fly through this, so hopefully I'm hitting all the points and all the things that you're wondering about. So this is our automation module, and just to show you this really quick, we've got 3 set up. If you remember, I clicked the drop-down box, and we saw these 3 in there. Gives you some information on when they're scheduled, what environment they're running against, who actually did it. We've got some security framework that's built in the platform, so you can change that sort of stuff. And I'll show you here, if I were to expand one of these flows, a flow contains a whole bunch of little tasks. And if you look here, we've got a certain bunch of things that are happening. We're exporting our artifacts, exporting our metadata, exporting our data, and exporting our templates. And again, whether that's part of your backup process or not, you can customize this to be whatever it is that you need. And I'll just show you here real quick. If I were to add a job to any one of my flows here, I can give it all this a name and a a company and all this stuff. The EPM automate tasks down here, this is actually the list of EPM tasks that we can get from the cloud. So in other words, all of these things are available for a user to do or for an admin to do, depending on what application you're hitting. Obviously, Oracle is adding new ones all the time, and you can take advantage of all those things. The other thing you can do is you could run Excelitus tasks, and these might not necessarily be part of what a user can do on the web, but again, these are things that maybe are a combination of a few EPM automation tasks, or anything that you might have defined. So we got a question from somebody that asked if we can kick off a batch script as an action against a regression health check. So you can do that only if you have either the monitored EPM solution, right, or the on-premise EPM solution. As far as the pure cloud solution goes, and that's part of the issue, right, is that you really don't have a lot of visibility into the server itself. So launching a batch file on the Oracle Cloud, although that's not possible, certainly you would be able to do that if you had access to the servers. Again, a hosted solution or an on-premise type solution would give you the ability to do that. So it's possible, but again, with the cloud-to-cloud stuff that we're showing today, that's not really possible. And these lists of things are constantly growing. Again, when we're building this cloud platform, depending on what people are asking us to do, these job lists and these EPM automation tasks just continue growing depending, on functionality that folks are looking for out in the field. Um, so that's really our cloud platform in a nutshell. I don't know as far as the group that's on the phone now, if you're planning on it, certainly Accelitis is going to be in San Antonio in the middle of next year for the Kscope 17. If you guys are planning on going out there, certainly I'd love to see you over at the booth. We've got all kinds of live demos and things going on. So just keep in mind that we certainly will be out in Texas next year. If you are planning on it, then we'd love to see you. And of course, I've got to show the slide at the end. If you're interested in really digging in and getting some more personalized attention as far as what this thing can do, what it looks like in your environment, or even just want to talk to one of our folks about any one of our offerings, including the Center of Excellence suite, or any individual product as far as load testing or anything, certainly contact Jonathan Berry. I've got his email address and phone number up on the screen. Or you can contact Ed DeLisi. Again, email address and phone number up on the screen. Both of those guys have been with this company since the beginning, and I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions you have. That's the end of my slideshow, and I don't know if anybody has any follow-up questions, but I'm more than happy to stick around if you want to type some questions into the into the chat window. Do my best to answer them for you, but if you have no follow-up questions, I just want to thank you for joining the webinar, and hope you saw something you found interesting, and like I said, contact us and let us know what you're looking for, and we'd be more than happy to set up a demo, again, more focused on maybe your system or your products or specifically what you're doing. All right, so I got a
Chuck, I did
question.
just send you one more.
Yeah, I saw that right here. So about auditing, and you're asking if it spans all EPM products. Does it monitor files or folder movement? All right, so the auditing, as far as the cloud solution goes, it is a little bit contained, right? Because there's only so much stuff we can tell. Now, certainly we can tell, with data tieouts if something has changed, so we can audit that sort of stuff. We can audit user security, right? So who has rights to what, who has access to what. We can audit. We could audit metadata, right? If anything's changed with your structure or with your rules. So all of those things absolutely can be audited. Now, when you move to our Center of Excellence product, and you talk about auditing, then yeah, we're talking across all suites. We can monitor all the way down to like JVM settings for your web applications. We could monitor anything in the EPM registry, all those sorts of settings that sit in the background. Nobody really pays too much attention to them. We could monitor all those things, and really those minute type settings are what we're best at monitoring for you, because again, they're the types of things that you're not looking at all the time. But if a server becomes out of sync, say you've got 3 servers in your planning cluster, or you got 2 report servers, the idea is that they're configured exactly the same, and you want to make sure that happens. So yeah, so the auditing feature does span the EPM products for sure. And then you asked if it monitors file and folder movement. We could set up those sorts of checks for sure. I don't know that there's a canned type of thing, but if there's a file and I'm trying to think out loud, maybe you're talking about like your RM1 folder or a file share, maybe where you're hosting maybe some LCM artifacts. In that case, yeah, we absolutely can do that, and it's just a matter of going in and configuring it to look in those areas and to make sure that whatever it is you want to see happen or don't want to see happen, whatever's whatever whatever you set it up for. Short answer, yes, we can monitor all that. And then there's a question of does it monitor cell level data changes for Essbase and planning? So we could certainly do that. And again, if you think of this in the context of the data tieout, and I think that's what you're talking about, then yeah, absolutely, we could tell if and when things have changed. And again, the idea is a baseline, right, where you've got some value or something that you know has happened, and you want to make sure that that's still happening. After, say, maybe a major rule setter or something that you've put in place for some sort of, currency translation or something, right? So yeah, you can certainly do that. That's for sure. And I think I might have another question here from the field. Can we get provision reports with users and groups? Yes, yes, we do offer that. And again, especially with the on-premise product, you can actually schedule those reports, which when I first started talking at the beginning of the webinar about folks who get reports in, every Monday. We've got plenty of customers that get a monthly report of the EPM provisioning. And that does come in an XML format. So, depending on what you want to do with it, we've got people that parse the XML, put it into a database. We've got other folks that just format the XML in a certain way, send it off in a report, and then we've got other folks that just send the actual XML off to whatever their teams are. So depending on how you want to look at it, we could modify that. But you could get provisioning reports with users and groups across your whole span. No matter who your provider is, whether it's native directory or active directory, whatever. So we do provide that. That is an out-of-the-box type thing that we do. All right. I don't know if anybody has any other questions. It looks like the questions have died down. But like I said, let me throw this slide. Can I put the slide back up? I'll put this one back up just in case you do have another question and you want to just copy this information down. Again, we'd love to hear from you. We've got all sorts of stuff that are available to you. Lately we've been doing trial runs of the Cloud Solutions platform. So if you are a cloud user and you're interested in using the software as a trial, again, contact Jonathan or Ed. We'd be more than happy to show you what we can do. Let me just scroll down and make sure I don't have any more. Okay, I do have a couple more questions. All right, is the performance testing module a canned out-of-the-box solution for PBCS, or is it created from scratch each time? Okay, so for both of our offerings, for the cloud platform and for our Center of Excellence platform, these are out-of-the-box solutions, and obviously everybody's setup is slightly different. But unlike a solution like Load Runner, where you've got to go in from scratch and start building your packages, in our packages, it really is, it's a matter of putting in your server names, your ports, username and password, and maybe, whatever it is you're looking for, whether maybe you want to open up a planning form, or maybe you want to open up an HFM Smart View grid and change the point of view and save data to a certain cell, right? All of these things are super easy to do. Going to be exclusive to you or your company. So you do not have to build them from scratch each time. And the good thing is with these solutions that we have as far as our testing module for performance testing, we deal with something called iterations. So I'll give you the example of maybe you have an HFM Smart View save form where you want to actually populate a cell in a form and you want to save it. That's great if you do it with one person, but when you're doing a performance test, maybe you want to do this, with a list of 50 different users or maybe 50 different forms. So we deal with something called iterations, where we can add, change the variable that you're looking for. So if it's a different user that you want to load up, and again, a lot of times that's important. Because once a user logs in, let's say to planning, right, the security fabric is built, and then if it's the same user logging in all the time, you're not really getting a true picture of what your application is doing. So in this case, through an iteration, all the information in this page stays the same, except for maybe the user that's being pulled up. Very easy. You would just set up a new iteration. It is literally one click of the button, and you would change the username and password for that iteration, and it's done. So it's very easy to get that sort of stuff working. And again, you don't have to keep rebuilding it over and over and over. Once you have it, and you can use it for regression testing. You can use it for performance testing. You can use it as a health check to make sure that your application is up. You can use it for SLA information to make sure that your app is performing within a reasonable time. So there's any number of things that you can use that for. But yeah, that was the long answer to that. But yeah, you do not have to create from scratch each time. And then I got a question as well. It says, does the tool suggest the tuning parameters for performance issues? So that's one thing that it does not do. Now that being said, every environment is different. Every server is different, right? So when you talk about performance statistics, it's usually more of a relative question, right? If you've got a server that's got 8, quad-core CPUs in it, and you've got 10 gigs of memory, you're going to tune an app a little bit differently than you would if you've got a server that's maybe got 4, dual core CPUs with 4 gigs of memory, right? So all of this stuff is a little bit different, but what we do give you is the visibility into the system. Let's say I've got 2 metrics being collected on my server, right? And I'm thinking like JVM memory type settings, right? Where I can look at my Java heap, and maybe this thing is running at 2 gigs most of the time, but I notice that during the 3 days of close every month, this thing jumps up to like 3 gigs and stays there, right? Um, or maybe my percent of heap that's used really cranks up, 98%, 99%. And I could see those statistics right next to how long did my form take to open, right? And those sorts of things might drive me to say, well, if I gave my app a little more memory, maybe it's got the headroom to do more work. If I see the CPU is struggling, or if I see certain indications that it'll drive you to do different things as far as tuning the application. But again, it doesn't tell you what you should be running, but we give you every angle into your system, whether it's hardware, whether it's server and software, OS, whether it's application server, whether it's Java. All of these metrics can be tapped into and looked at and trended over time to help you understand where you might need to make those changes, or where you might want to make those changes in order for your application to perform better. And if you couple that together, again, with a regression type test, you could do this sort of testing off hours. You could schedule it. You could have changes made on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock at night, and regression test the whole thing and put the changes back. And with nobody at the wheel, you can test out, in real terms what these changes might mean for your user community, again, before you even have to put it out there. So many different things you can do, but yeah, the quick answer to do we tell you or do we suggest what to do, we really don't. It's just such a dynamic arena depending on so many things. But again, what we do try to do is give you the knowledge in order to make those changes, in order to make them intelligently, so that it's not a guessing game. It's exactly what it's going to do when you put it live. Okay, and I think that's it for questions, guys. And again, I just want to thank everybody for sticking with me. And I would again urge you, if you're if you're at all interested in seeing anything more, please contact us. We'd be happy to show you more. And Karen, thank you very much for having us present.
Thank you, Chuck, for being here today.